with your flight on the other end. I spent my professional career before being elected in healthcare policies. This is something I've thought about and worked a lot. And I talk about pay for performance all the time. And I want to commend you for your testimony, and I'll commend Governor Rendell after his testimony, but for what you have done to take a leading role in pushing that. And I agree with everything you said about the incentives that exist, and it's almost as though the incentive of the provider is for the patient to get sick. They make more money the more often they come to see them, and you've taken steps to address that. So quickly, my question is, given the impact that pay per performance will have on healthcare providers, and particularly solo and small group providers, practitioners, what steps have you taken in your state to make sure that they're fairly considered with their interests?
Thank you, Congressman Altmire. It's a great question, and I also want to say, in the interest of full disclosure, what we've done in Minnesota is early stage. I think I would be misleading this committee if anybody said we've got a full-blown pay-for-performance program that's embedded in the culture, deeply embedded in the payment system. We are at the very beginnings of paying at the margins for diabetes, obesity, and a few other things. So it's a start. We think we know where we need to end up, but it's just beginning. As to your question about rural or smaller providers, in Minnesota, we are trying to address that in one way is through health information technology, that if you're in an area of greater Minnesota, and you need access to this type of information on standards, practice protocols, or the like, that you have the capabilities to access that. And we also don't make the system mandatory. In the end, if we are going to pay for outcomes, we should be agnostic as to how they get there, making sure there's consumer protection and it's legal and ethical and appropriate. But we got this intermediate step where we're paying for procedures now, and now we're going to go to best practices and hopefully to outcomes. But we could say to small and rural providers, here's the outcomes we expect. How you get there, is part of the art of medicine. And we'll see on the results side of this. But we're not there yet. With the system we have is primitive. But to answer your question, we are trying to provide some support to transition them to make sure they have access through technology to the same information everybody else has got.
Would the gentleman yield? I thank the gentleman for yielding. Madam Chair, if I can make a suggestion, since the governor has to leave literally very soon in moments, perhaps because a lot of members have been here, if each member could maybe ask one question till we get to as many as possible.
Without objection, yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Westmoreland, and we will come back a second round.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Governor, thank you for being here too. I wanted to ask you about the flexible benefits program that you allowed small business, or I guess insurers, to offer small business. It says that, I was just reading a statement, that the plan must be offered on a guaranteed basis to all small firms. So are you saying that that each small business cannot come up with their own menu of plans that they would want based on the employees getting together and saying, we need this, we don't need this, but they would all have to be offered the same plan?
Within a range of Westmoreland, within a range of benefit options they can design, but once the plan is offered, it has to be available in the market broadly. I will also tell you this program has not been particularly successful. Not because I don't think it is well designed and well intentioned, but it's been woefully under-marketed, and in my view, the health plans do not have a large incentive to sell this particular product. It's a low-profit, low-margin, high-administration product, and I would say to you the impact of this in Minnesota so far has been very modest, and so I would not bring this up yet as a success, and I think more flexibility perhaps would be a thing. But the heart of the matter is the health plans have very little incentive to aggressively market that plan, and they're marketing, frankly, more revenue robust plans.
Do you think it would be better if they were able to offer different plans to different businesses?
Remember, one question.
Yeah, Congressman Westmoreland. Yes, but within a base of consumer protection. Again, this is an area where consumers can get really exploited if we're not careful. These plans and policies are very complex. I used to be a lawyer. I try to read this stuff. I can't understand my benefits and rights, and so you got to, within a range, you got to protect the consumers.
Mr. Sestak.
Thank you, Governor. You made in a response to a question earlier. I think the response had something to do with an individual having skin in the game. It changes the behavior. because they have to pay a part of it. Why can't you extend that skin in the game analogy that you want to change behavior by having a mandate so that people are involved in it? And isn't that the same philosophy that therefore their behavior might change if they're involved in it, particularly since if they're not, you then have to wait till they go to the emergency room? Isn't it the same analogy?
Madam Chair, and I'm sorry, Congressman, I can't see your nameplate there, but Sestak, you're speaking to individual mandate for coverage. We have an individual mandate for automobile insurance in Minnesota with the threat of a criminal penalty, and the non-compliance rate is well north of 10%. And the reason for that is some people just aren't responsible, but a large part of it is people can't afford the insurance. And so there's a reality there that lies underneath that. The other thing is, at least in Minnesota, we're so close to what many would define as, reasonable universal coverage that we don't think it's necessary. We're already at 93%. We think we can get to the Massachusetts standard without that. And the other thing I'd be careful about, the Massachusetts approach is a work in progress. And I would suggest to you that there's some unique circumstances there that may not be, that you can replicate. Specifically, they cut a deal with the federal government where they got a big bunch of transition money that's available for a couple of years, then it sunsets. And that was part of a deal they cut on some Medicaid negotiation issues that sunsets. Number two, they promised affordability. And the jury is still out yet on whether over time that's going to be an affordable plan. Originally they hoped to do it under $200 a month. I think it's north of $300, and maybe in many people's minds, if the legislature keeps putting stuff in there, it could be a $400 or $500 a month plan. Now they've added some people to the rolls, no question about that. But I don't think that mandating something through government is the best way to go, particularly when the main barrier is you've got people who can't afford it. And so I think a smarter way to go is to try to make it affordable and help them through the marketplace, if need be, give them some financial assistance, but saying to poor people, get this or you're going to be a criminal, seems to me not the wisest path.
Mr. Fortenberry.
Thank you, Governors, for joining us today. I'm in your neighborhood. I'm from Nebraska. And I really appreciated your opening comment. I think the major challenge before us all is how do we improve outcomes and reduce costs, and to that end, I think you identified three absolute critical factors, one being both transparency in terms of quality of care as well as price. In addition to that, the use of health information technology to increase efficiency, but also encouraging and incenting healthy behaviors. In that regard, I want a clear understanding, though, as to what level of subsidy the state is providing to the various components of the health care plans that you've talked about, and whether or not health savings accounts are an important component of that. Because the health savings account, in my view, particularly when you can, again, allowing someone to use the price mechanism for their own care in partnership with their health care provider to improve an outcome, but also save a little money, is a very important way in which we can, again, achieve, a better outcome and reduce costs. So I'm curious as to the level of state subsidy and whether health savings accounts are an important part of that.
Well, thank you. And if I could just jump back to the other Congressman's question, the other aspect of a mandate is if you mandate it and people can't afford it, then you've just either made them criminals or you sent the government the bill, and you guys are broke. We're going broke. So where does that lead? As to your question, Congressman Fortenberry, HSAs philosophically for me are a right direction, a right option to present. I will say their impact in the market so far has been modest. A cousin of HSAs as it relates to consumer empowerment, consumer responsibility is what you do with financial alignment of you can go wherever you want. My attitude is go wherever you want, but if you pick a high cost, low quality place, we're not going to pay as much of that as we would if you went to a high quality, efficient place. And that's oversimplified, but within the deductibles, co-pays, those types of mechanisms, I think you want to align those mechanisms to high quality, efficient places. And those are powerful incentives. I'll tell you one quick true story. His daughter got injured in Michigan. He's a Minnesotan, Minnesota health plan, so he's out of network with a Michigan provider. She has a knee injury. It's not life-threatening. and they wanted something like $1,600 or $1,800 for the MRI in Michigan. He gets a friend to drive her home. In the meantime, he's in an HSA, so he gets on the phone to Minnesota MRI providers. He gets quoted a $1,200 price, a $900 price, an $800 price. Finally, he finds a place that if he pays cash up front, cash discount, he got it done for like $600. So now, not everybody's going to jump on the phone and do that, but he was a motivated, involved, engaged consumer and got the price of that procedure down from $1,600 to $600. That's the power of having people say, if I got to pay something, maybe I better think about what the price is and what the quality is.